I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently, a podcast where we explore the ins and outs of what becomes possible when we're willing to think, do, and show up differently to the moments of our everyday lives. Hey, Neeley, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you're back. For everybody listening, Neeley and her husband Eli were joined me on episode 8. And it's called Choosing Together, and it's still one of the very most listened to episodes of this year. And so I encourage you to go back and listen. It was really amazing to interview them both, and they talked a lot about their marriage. So I invited Neeley back today to share a story. Neeley is a makeup and hairstylist and makeup artist, and she does my hair, and we often have very amazing conversations when I'm sitting in her chair. And about a month ago, she shared a story with me that just really stuck with me, and I just felt like it needed to be shared. So I called Neeley or texted her a couple weeks ago and just said, would you be willing to come share that story? And so she's here today to do that, and I'm so excited for you to hear it.
I'm excited too. I actually played the episode. Axel and I, my youngest son, were on a road trip, and I played the other podcast that Eli and I did for him, and he was just like, "Wow, there's a lot of stuff I didn't even know about you guys on there." So it was kind of fun to hear. You know, he's 13, and so he's very curious about everything, and it was kind of fun it was really fun and meaningful for us to be on there before. So I'm thankful that you asked me back.
Yeah. How cool for him to hear that perspective.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. Love that. So share the story with us that happened. Yeah.
So yeah, I am sure everyone has felt like I have recently in the past year, I guess, or more maybe, that when you go out and you're out and about driving, everything's a little more intense than I've been used to previously. I feel like there's just this aggressive kind of anger, and everyone seems a little more stressed than maybe in the past. And I had been noticing that, and I had had a few experiences where people were aggressive towards me when I was driving, or, you know, everybody makes mistakes when they're driving or whatever in parking lots and stuff. And people were just way more intense than I had been used to. And it had been on my mind. And one day I was heading into work. I had a package that I was expecting to be delivered, and I had prepaid for the package. This little background for it, but I had prepaid for the package so that it could be delivered if I wasn't there, because I have my own studio and no one's there to collect packages. But I had arranged for it to be left with a friend of mine that works in my same salon studios. Well, the delivery driver didn't get the memo on that, and the package showed on the box that it was like supposed to be delivered COD, which is absolutely silly because who does COD anymore? But
right. Who has
the
checks
package
anymore?
was marked COD, so he was expecting, you know, a check. And he got there and I wasn't there. And so my friend called me and she was like, "Are you on your way? Because there's this really angry delivery driver here waiting." And I was on my way. So I was like, "I'll be there really soon." And anyway, unbeknownst to me at the time, he became pretty upset about that. And he like threw my package down the hall, tossed it, and it slid across the hall. And my friend was pretty mad at him and she told him about it. And so when I got there, she was like, "Oh, good luck with him. You know, he threw your package and you got to report that and whatever." And anyway, I knew he was upset when I got there. And so I had an advantage, I feel like, because I knew going in that he was already upset. Sometimes we don't have that advantage. But I had decided that I was just going to greet him with kindness and not be reactionary to his mood and whatnot. And so I went up to him and I said, "Hello, I'm so sorry that you've had to wait." And he started in just, I won't say attacking me, because it wasn't that crazy, but he was very rude and very upset. And he took his anger on me, because I was right there and it was my package. But what I decided to do instead, I just acknowledged his feelings and I just looked him in the eyes and I said, "I'm sorry that you're having such a hard day, and I'm going to try to make it a little easier for you." And so I just wrote him a check, even though I knew I had already paid for it, because I figured I could just work it out with the supplier. And he calmed down in probably less than like 35 seconds. He calmed down. We had a little chat. He told me that he had 18 deliveries to do that day and he had to get them done in a certain amount of time, and that this company that I bought from had done this to him before where it was unclear what he was supposed to do in this type of situation. And he's an older gentleman. He looked to me like someone who you would assume was retired, but he was still working pretty hard and wasn't in the best physical health as well. So I'm sure maybe there was some pain that he was feeling. And I thought about that. I've thought about it ever since, but I thought about it a lot that day. And the thing that I deduced from this experience for me personally is that aggressive anger and intensity has to be met toe to toe with something. There's got to be something equal to it. So you can either meet someone in their anger or you can meet them in kindness. And so I had this whole idea of like, what would it be like if we met intense anger with intense kindness, or aggressive kindness is like what I like to call it. um, so I've been kind of sampling it out in the world and just showing up as the highest level of person that I could be with the knowledge that I have, and just trying to be extra kind, more than normal, and not fake, but true, like really sincere kindness, seeing people and observing their strengths, even if I don't know them. You can always look at someone and find something to compliment or a way to connect. And I connect with people in my job all the time. So I thought this is a skill that I have. And it's something that I've enjoyed doing this past month, is trying to see how easily I can diffuse a situation from being very intense and upsetting to maybe helping someone feel like they're seen or heard, or just someone was nice to them that day. And so it's been pretty cool to see that. It was a really good lesson to me to learn that I have a choice. I always have a choice. I can choose. I can't choose the situation always, but I can choose my how I respond to it. I can choose to be non-reactionary, and I can already decide ahead of time what I'm going to respond and how I'm going to respond to people around me. That's my choice. And I've enjoyed choosing aggressive kindness this season. And I feel like I could make a little difference in that guy's life. And what's really been upsetting to me is online, you just see all these videos of people trying to catch people in their worst moments, and they're using it as a tool for themselves to go viral or whatever on TikTok or Instagram. And so they're trying to record people when they're not at their best. And those videos have, they started out being kind of funny, but lately they've just been so upsetting to me to see, because I think what would happen if we met people and saw them as a human being and treated them as a human being who's in some way suffering. and
Yeah.
you can't always make a difference in people. Some people are just going to continue in their anger and they're really like holding on to it. But I think most of the time, if what would happen if you put down your phone instead of trying to catch someone in their bad behavior and you said, I'm really sorry that you're having a bad day. What can I do? So that's basically it. That's what I've been trying to do. And it's made me feel more loving towards other people. And it's made me feel like I'm a useful person who has a purpose that I can spread kindness, and hopefully that will internalize in someone else and they can do the same thing, and it has this trickle effect.
So beautiful, Neeley. And I remember that you told me you went home and had a conversation with your family about leveling up kindness. Was there anything
Yes.
about that you wanted to share?
Yeah, so my son, especially my youngest, he's in middle school, and middle school is a like pretty awful place. It can be kind of rough. Kids are just at that age, they're really trying to figure out who they are, and at the same time, everyone's watching every move they make, and they're trying to be cool too. And so he's had some instances where kids were mean, and he's never really had that before. So I talked to my husband first about it, and told him my experience, and we told our kids about it too. I want my kids to live at the highest vibration, I guess you could call it, or like a level up. Like we're big into video games around here. I'm not, but everyone else seems to be. But we do like to use that terminology because it resonates with Axel, my son, and live, being owning your choices and owning your responsibility in the world. And we had a really great conversation about that, and how our home is a safe place for us to talk about these things and to vent if someone is unkind. Our home is a safe place, and when you're out in the world, you have an opportunity to be your best self and to plan ahead to be that person. And we told them, you can it's easy to be mean back. When someone's mean to you, you feel justified. It's really easy to just clap back. And my kids especially, they're smart, they have sharp tongues, so it's really easy to come up with those comebacks and put someone in their place, right? But you don't end up feeling better after that. You feel worse oftentimes. And so my dog is snoring. I don't know if you can hear it, but hopefully not. Anyway, it was a great conversation that we had. And Axel, he's already a very kind person. So Skylar, my other kids are grown and not in the house anymore, but they're kind too. But I think it's a conversation that is necessary to have on a regular basis, in a safe place where you can kind of plan it out. When I was growing up, my parents, they taught me, it was a big do not do drugs movement back then in the 80s and stuff like that. So there was like, make the decision before you go out into the world what you're going to do. And we've kind of adopted that style of parenting so that you're not having to make these decisions in the heat of the moment. You already know what you're going to be doing. And then you're accountable for your own actions and your own responses to others. And so that's been really good. And I feel like his middle school experience has been improved because of how he is. And he knows at the end of the day, he did what he thought was right. And hopefully as he grows up and gets older, other people will, people are just drawn to him anyway. And I think when you have a light about you and a kindness, then that attracts people. I feel like there is a lot of darkness around us. And one thing that we talk about is our home is a safe place where we can fill ourselves up with beauty and light. And then when we go out into the dark world, we can be a beacon to those who are lost, who are looking for that light. And that's really what life is about to me.
I couldn't agree more. And going back to this story, when you were describing, like, I saw you able to almost stand there knowing that what his behavior, this delivery guy's behavior, really had nothing to do with you and everything to do with something inside of himself or something that was going on in his world. And you were able to separate that. And I think it's such an important thing to remember that other people's behavior often has nothing to do with us and everything to do with what's happening inside or around them. And when you can recognize that, you really have a lot more power and control to choose your own behavior, which can, like your situation, completely diffuse something and turn it into something better. And I knew I wanted people to hear that story right now because of what you said. There's a low grade or maybe even a high grade sort of tension and anxiety and ugliness in the world right now. And I think the more we can spread this message of light and kindness, and that's what I pray every day, that I can just be a light and shine it for people that need it. So I absolutely love that. And I love that, you talking to Axel about it too, and your children. And because our home is a place, like if we can, where all those emotions are normal, and we're all going to feel those moments of anger when our ego wants to take over and make somebody else wrong or prove somebody wrong. But if we can diffuse that first within ourselves so that we don't have to go back and retaliate with that or spread more of that we can turn it into something different. I think that is our role and responsibility as mothers and parents, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel so strongly about that need. Eli and I were talking the other night about how so many things that are wrong in the world could be solved just by simply sitting down and having dinner together every night, like in the olden days, just most of the problems could be easily solved if people were just willing to spend time together in their homes and talking things out, as a family, and that homes were a safe place. So we definitely try to provide that safe place for our family to work through stuff so that we're not having to go out and work through it in the moment,
Yeah. Well, and I love this idea, and maybe that's what we leave everybody with, is just this invitation to take on your experiment, of just, I can't remember exactly. Why don't you kind of capture it just again for people? But like, I would love to just invite people to experiment with it and see what happens. Because just like you said, we can't always choose the circumstances. You couldn't choose that guy showing up at your workspace that day, but you could choose how you showed up and responded to it. And I think that's the invitation and to this up-level kindness idea.
Yeah, just go out and see what kind of difference you can make. And if you're really looking, you might be surprised at what circumstances come to you. You open your heart, and then you can share and connect with surprising people.
Mm-hmm. So beautiful.
So level up that kindness.
Yeah, I love it. So I hope you have a beautiful Merry Christmas. I thank you so much for your light and your love and your heart in my life.
Oh, thank you, Carla. I feel the same way about you. Our friendship has been something that I treasure. And it was surprising how we met. And
yes.
The bond that we have is just, it's a gift from God in my life. So I appreciate you.
The feeling is so mutual. And you'll have to come back on the podcast this next year. I know there will be another opportunity.
I would love to.
Awesome. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Differently. I hope it stirred your thinking, and I invite you to take one inspired action from something that stood out to you. If you love listening to this podcast, may I ask you to leave a review in Apple Podcasts. These mean so much to me, and I read every one. They are a great source of fuel for me as I am creating these episodes. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast app and help me spread the word. If this episode could impact someone you know, please share it and pass it along. Remember, new episodes drop weekly. See you next week.